Hey everyone, welcome back to Bobini Creates. My name is Jeannie, and I thought I'd bring you along today for a little bit of weekend coloring, some seasonal coloring. And I chose Mary Engelbreit's Color Me Christmas, which is actually one of my very favorite Christmas books. It's just so sweet, and the images are pretty simple to color. She doesn't put in a lot of, like shading or anything like that. So I don't feel like I need to either when I color, so it just makes it super simple. I'm using alcohol markers here, Sioux Color to be specific. A while back ago, I had found a super bargain on Amazon for Sioux Color markers, and they were $20 for a pack of 80. And I thought, you know what, why not? My Ohuhu markers were kind of drying out. They're on their last leg. And so I needed something else. And I really don't use alcohol markers all that much. So, this was, I think, a good fit for me. That way I had something just to kind of play around with a little bit, but, didn't have to put too much of an investment into them, and I've really kind of enjoyed them. They're a little on the drier side. Yeah, they're not juicy like, some of the other markers, but for me, it's probably not a bad thing that they're the way they are, because I'm not real comfortable with alcohol markers to begin with. So this just kind of gives me I can feel like I can stay on the lines better because they're drier. I know, it's just one of those things, but yeah, so that works for me. I was checking on Amazon just before I filmed this to see, what the price was currently, and it looks like they're on sale for $29. So, just like anything, they're going to go up and down in price. Let's see here. And then next I go in with just sort of a yellowish color for her hair. And same type of thing here. I'm just going over the edges, the outline first, and then coming back and filling it in. And for me, it just makes it easier for, especially using markers, to be able to sort of have a border to keep me inside that border and again, not go outside the line. So that's what I'm doing here. One of the things that I really like about her images is that they're simple, and I don't feel the need to have to do a lot of shading on them. I think that's part of the beauty and the appeal of these images, is that they're sort of sweet and innocent, if that makes sense. They don't require a lot of detail. So when I color them, I kind of appreciate being able to stick with sort of more of a flat image, if that makes sense. You'll see me go in a little bit and do a tiny little bit of shading on some parts, but not very much, because I really do like that very simple look on these. I was just looking up to see when this book was published, and it looks like 2016. I've had it quite a while, probably since 2017, I think. And I have this one, and then she has two others. I think it's something like Volume 1 and Volume 2, or Color Me 1 and 2, something like that. But if I recall, I got mine from the Book Outlet years ago, and as you know, those are, sort of discounted price books, and I have been so thankful that I bought those years ago. They're just really favorites in my collection. The paper quality is really nice. It's heavier than a lot of coloring books. I wouldn't be able to even guess what weight, but they do a good job. Seems like no matter what you use on them. I've used watercolors, obviously markers, pencils, quite a few different things, and everything's held up really nicely. I also like that they're one-sided, and so that you can use alcohol markers and not worry about the backside ruining an image. But I'm always sure to put a page underneath. Especially cardstock is a good choice just to keep things from spilling over to the page underneath, you know. So I tend to keep a piece of cardstock, and pretty much most books that I have just a loose piece of paper or cardstock in them, just so that if I grab one real quick, it's ready to go, you know, just one of those things that I do. And then I reuse that same cardstock over and over. I don't know if you guys do that, but super useful, you know. So what I'm doing here is I'm going in with my gelato, Faber-Castell gelato. So what I've done is I've kind of just scribbled that on my little palette, and I use that term loosely because that's a dollar store cutting board is what I use, and I just use the rough side of that and scribble a little bit on. And then I've got something, this brush is similar to like a stencil brush. It has those really short bristles that are stiff, and they work really well just to sort of transfer the color from the palette onto the page. And so that's what I'm doing here. I thought I wanted something that would make a really soft look for the wings, and so, you know, that's what I'm doing. You'll see me, what I did is I pulled out some washi tape, and you may have seen me put that on my sleeve just to sort of take off some of the sticky, and that way when I put it down on my page, it's not lifting up the paper, you know, when I go to pull it off. And the reason I'm using the washi, you know, off and on here is it just helps make a really nice edge that I don't have to worry about the color transferring outside the lines or coloring outside the lines. It's just a nice barrier, you know. So you can't use that technique all the time, but you can use it when it's sort of a straight edge, and so like I have here. So. And then the other thing that's nice about those gelatos, you can go in and I don't know how long you can use this technique, but you can actually take your eraser and you can, if you get outside the lines or, you know, want to remove something, you can, you'll see me in a minute, use an electric eraser to pick up some of that color when you get outside the lines. I think you might have to do that when it's still fresh. I'm not sure once it's set and dried. I'm not sure that you can go in and erase it later. I've never really tried to do that. But yeah, at least know that you can erase a little bit. I wouldn't rely on that a lot. I'm not sure if you had like a big area to erase that it would work very well for that. But little bits, it does a decent job, you know. With these gelatos, they're kind of tacky at first, and so I always like to let them dry before I go over them with something else. But what I'm doing here is I've got a little bit of like a baby wipe or, you know, that type of thing, and I'm just going over the top of it. You can smooth it a little bit with that because they are water soluble. You certainly don't have to do that on your images that you're coloring with gelatos, but I like to sometimes. Besides smoothing out areas, it also helps restore those black lines that have become a little bit faded from the pigment. It doesn't do a bang up job on that, but it does help restore them a little bit. So that's kind of what I was doing here, was just sort of bringing those black lines, you know, back to life a little bit. So what I'm doing here is coloring with the lightest purple I could find, a lavender shade for her gown. And I color a little bit of it, as you'll see here in a moment. Oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm putting down another layer of washi at the bottom. Sorry, I guess I kind of cut that part of it out a little bit. But see how it just sort of keeps the color even on the bottom of the page. Whenever you have one of those borders, you know, yeah, so that helps a little bit. So what I end up doing here is just coloring a little bit, and then I decide that you probably don't need to see me color with marker, you know, over the whole gown. So I end up stopping the video and just finishing it off camera for that bit, as well as the background. I choose sort of a dark purple over that little strip around the left side and the top. It kind of looks to me like it's supposed to be maybe a night sky with, you know, the little stars or snowflakes or whatever they are. I'm going to guess they're stars. And then at the top, you'll see a larger star. So that I end up going over the top of all of this with that darker purple, just because I wasn't going to be that tedious and go around each tiny little circle. So yeah, so I figured I'll just choose a dark purple, go over everything, and then I can go over the top of that later and fill in the stars that I want to. So here I'm using a Tamnet gel pen, a yellow gold, and it's a glitter gel pen, so that makes it fun for the little halo here. So I'm filling that in, and I can find so many uses for those gel pens. I'm telling you, they're so smooth and creamy, and they get into small spaces, which I love, and they just add that little bit of extra glitz. I mean, we all love glitz on our coloring pages, I think, you know, most of us do. So that's always fun for me to add, just those little finishing touches, you know. After this, I go around the outside of her hair and with that same pen, and that's just to give a little bit of shimmer, tiniest bit on the outside of her hair. Again, trying to keep with the sort of simplicity of this page, I opted not to do any shading on her hair, but I thought this gave it a little bit of something, and I like the way it ends up turning out. Then after I finish up with the outline of the hair, I use that same gold color at the bottom of the page just to kind of tie in the color, and I'm coloring in that little heart charm and adding just a little bit of glitz there. I think that's pretty sweet. I was kind of contemplating on coloring it maybe a darker purple or something like that, and then I thought, no, you know what, let's just stick with the gold, and that'll be, like I said, just a nice little element of that same color. I wanted a really faint outline of the wing on those little bits you see there. They kind of look like dotted lines, you know, for feathers. And so I'm going over those with the lightest bit of gray gel pen. And these are glitter gel pen as well. The only thing is that later on I'll go over the whole thing with some glitz, but it was really more the color, that light color that I was going for, just to give it a little bit of oomph. And going in here with my purple gel pen, another glitter gel pen, and just coloring in the ribbon. And I think that's a nice contrast to that lavender. So that's what's going on here. Then I go in a little bit, you'll see me do just the tiniest little bit of shading on her face. Excuse me. Well, I do some shading, but I do those little circled cheeks that I think are so cute. I have to say, working on these pages are just so refreshing. Something about being able just to color, you know, a little bit of shading on the skin with, you know, one or two colors as opposed to a whole handful is kind of delightful, really. And, you know, part of the appeal of these pages, I think. And then going in with just one single shade of purple. I think this might have been Parma Violet. I was using Prismacolors on these. And just shading the tiniest bit again, you know, and keeping it super simple, not overthinking things. And I just do some of the little folds in her gown and a little bit of outlining. Nothing big, just something to make it stand out a little bit from the rest of the gown, you know. But not trying to overdo things by any stretch. I was on a mission here. Let's keep it simple. I ended up going with something I thought kind of complemented the gown, the lavender color. So after many tries, many little scribbles, I came up with a pretty good green, I think. I decided that I wanted to go over it with a colorless blender in different spots. I didn't have much that needed help, I guess, but I did want to try to get a little bit of a smoother look. So that's what I'm doing here. Just kind of going over those darker purple bits in the folds of her gown, and not even very much at that, but I really kind of feel like it smoothed things out. And you know, an angel kind of does need to look a little smooth, I think. So there you have it. Oh, yay. And here's the part that I've been waiting for, like for this whole project, and that's to add the glitter on the wings. I have been waiting and waiting for this. So let me enjoy this moment. Um, so what this is it's the Folk Art Extreme Glitter Hologram, and just going over the wing to add a little bit of shimmer. And it's super fine glitter, which I love. I think it's just perfect for this. So having fun putting this down. It's looking pretty fancy. Oh, speaking of fancy, if you look off to the right there, you can see my latest neat little palette, and that is a coffee lid. Isn't that fancy? So I learned that trick from Dee Dee Willingham. If any of you guys watch her channel, she does a lot of acrylic paint art, and she always uses a lid so that it's disposable and you don't have to worry about washing it out. So I copy her with that, and I just collect those, you know, not a whole lot, but I keep ahead by a few lids, and then I just use them as a little a disposable palette, and it works great. So I end up going over this wing, and I hold it up and look to see if it's got shimmer in all the right places. I find just a little bit more that needs some coverage, and then off camera I again do the other wing. So now what I'm doing is I'm going in with a white Posca, and I'm just making the little dots for the stars. Oh, you can kind of see underneath my hand here in a moment, you'll see a gold star. I had gone over that with the alcohol marker as well, and then it just took a couple layers of the gel pen, and I actually ended up using a metallic pen to try to bring it, make it a little bit brighter. It didn't entirely work, but I'm not unhappy with it either, you know. Now, you'll see me on these dots. I end up having something weird happen where the Posca fades a little bit, and then I go back over it. Maybe I just didn't shake it up good enough, I don't know. But in the end, I ended up kind of liking it because it looked, it gave it kind of a cool effect, like a light and dark different effect on the stars, and I ended up really liking it. So I wasn't overly concerned that it was sort of not my original intention. So yeah, so that's what we have here. I'm just finishing up those dots, and At first I was gonna maybe consider doing a background on the white edges, but I decided I didn't want to do that. But I really had a lot of fun with this. I really did. It was relaxing, which was just what I wanted for a weekend project. And it was simple. It has that, like I mentioned earlier, sort of a almost a childlike innocence about it. And that's what I was hoping for. That's what most of her images sort of have. And I think that's the appeal of it. So yeah, I really like the way it came out, and I want to thank you so much for coming along for the journey. It's been fun hanging out with you guys, and I'll look forward to hanging out with you on my next video. Thanks, everyone. Bye.